What if the most comfortable, safe, and profoundly restful night's sleep of your life wasn't in a modern bed, but in a deep cave 30,000 years ago? We've been taught to picture the Ice Age as a desperate, relentless struggle, a time of shivering, starving figures huddled against a world of ice. But tonight, we're journeying past that myth, deep into the earth, to a sanctuary of warmth and stillness. It's a story that feels surprisingly familiar. And just like this ancient family, you're on a journey as well, perhaps to sleep. It's always fascinating to see where our stories travel. So as you get settled, please feel free to share in the comments what time it is for you, and where in the world you're listening from tonight. Go ahead and adjust your pillows. Take a slow, deep breath, and let the outside world fade away as we prepare to enter the deep past. Welcome to Sleeping Scribe, where calming history stories help you unwind and gently fall asleep. Tonight, we travel back past the dawn of history to discover the lost art of Paleolithic comfort, and find out how our ancestors found perfect rest during the most brutal winters. Our story begins on a vast, frozen plain, 30,000 years in the past. This is the height of the last glacial period, a time geologists would one day call the Viarm glaciation. The world is locked in a deep and profound cold. This landscape is not a world of empty ice sheets. It is the Mammoth Steppe. This was a vast and unique ecosystem, a cold, dry grassland that stretched almost unbroken from the shores of northern Spain, across all of Eurasia, and over the frozen land bridge into Canada. It was the single largest biome on Earth, and it was full of life. A small group of people, perhaps 30 in all, moves with purpose across this steppe. They are a clan, a family bound by blood and survival, and they are moving quickly. A storm is gathering, and on this plain, a storm is a lethal event. The wind has risen to a high-pitched, relentless shriek. It is a sound that seems to come from everywhere at once, a solid wall of noise that presses in on them. It carries with it tiny, sharp crystals of ice that sting any exposed skin, forcing the group to pull their fur hoods low, leaving only a narrow slit for their eyes. Each person's breath plumes in a thick, white cloud, a cloud that is instantly torn to shreds by the wind. The sound of their movement is a muffled, solid crunch, as their fur-wrapped boots break the crust of the dry, frozen earth. Even though it is only mid-afternoon, the world is cast in a muted, gray-blue light, the subarctic twilight of a winter's day. The sun's arc is painfully low in the sky, a pale, distant disk that offers no warmth, only a dim and fleeting illumination. This is a land of giants, far in the distance, almost invisible in the swirling snow. Spectral shapes move against the gray. A family of woolly mammoths, their shaggy brown coats making them seem like moving hills. They're enormous, curving tusks sweeping the snow aside to find the dry grasses beneath. The group gives them a wide berth. They know this landscape is shared. They have seen the tracks of the woolly rhinoceros, a solitary, lumbering tank of horn and fur. They have watched the great herds of steppe bison, thousands strong, their hooves thundering over the permafrost, and they have heard, in the deep of night, the sawing cough of the great cave lions, the apex predators of this frozen world. But this small band of humans is not a desperate, cowering creature. They are, in their own right, the masters of this environment. Humans, Homo sapiens, had populated these harsh European landscapes for 10,000 years already. They are adapted, intelligent, and profoundly resilient. They are clothed not in crude wraps, but in sophisticated, layered garments. Their outer parkas, stitched from reindeer and bison hide, are worn with the fur facing outwards to shed the dry snow. Beneath this, they wear softer, lighter layers of rabbit fur or Arctic fox, worn with the fur facing inwards, trapping body heat with incredible efficiency. This is not guesswork, this is tailoring. In ancient shelters, archaeologists have found tiny, impossibly thin-eyed needles, carved from polished reindeer bone. These tools, some from the Solutrean period that would follow, are a testament to their skill. They allowed these ancient people to stitch hides together with sinew thread so tightly that the wind itself could not find a way in. But even the finest furs cannot protect them forever. The true danger of the steppe is not the cold itself, but the wind chill. The wind saps heat with terrifying speed. In this blizzard, an unprotected person could perish in minutes. The group knows this. They must find shelter. They are not wandering aimlessly. They are following a path known to them, a seasonal round. This is a migration, a familiar journey between known places of resource and safety. They have summer hunting grounds near the rivers, and they have this, their ancestral winter shelter. An elder, a woman with lines of memory etched around her eyes, walks at the front. She scans the horizon, her face a mask against the stinging ice. The land is a featureless, swirling expanse of white and gray, but she is not looking for a mountain. She is looking for a small sign. Then she stops. She lifts a mittened hand and points. Through the blur of the snow, there it is. A specific crack in a low limestone outcrop, a shape as familiar to her as a loved one's face. It is the marker. The entrance is near. Relief flickers across their faces. Their pace quickens. The crunch of their boots becomes more urgent. They are almost home. The group scrambles up the short, rocky incline, the blizzard howling at their backs as if trying to pull them away. They reach the dark slash in the rock, a wide but low opening in the limestone. One by one, they duck under the stone, lintel, and step inside. The effect is instantaneous. It is profound. The shriek of the wind does not fade. It is cut off. It is simply gone. One moment, they are in a world of screaming, chaotic noise. The next, there is a deep, sudden, and absolute silence. The relief is so immediate, it is almost dizzying. They stand for a moment in the gloom of the cave mouth, their chests heaving, allowing the stillness to settle over them. The air here is no longer moving. It feels thicker, completely calm. They can hear, for the first time in hours, the sound of their own breathing, the soft shuffle of fur on rock. This is the threshold. They have crossed from the lethal chaos of the outside world into the deep, abiding quiet of the earth. This is not a new place they are exploring. This is a return. This cave is an ancestral shelter. The floors they stand on are a deep record, a stratigraphy of their own past. Beneath the dust and rock are the ashes of their grandparents' fires, and their grandparents before them, stretching back for millennia. They are not the first to find safety here. This shelter is a feature of a karst landscape, a region of limestone rock, slowly carved and hollowed out by the patient work of water over millions of years. This cave is older than their species, older than the mammoths, a permanent feature of the land. They are standing in the cave mouth, the part of the shelter still touched by the outside world. This is the dripling, where rain or meltwater might fall, and where the temperature is still influenced by the day. But they are not staying here. The first ritual is always safety. Two of the hunters move forward from the group, their long, fire-hardened spears held ready. They must check for other occupants. A great cave bear, Ursus spelius, might have chosen this same entrance to begin its long winter sleep. A pack of cave hyenas, or perhaps a lion, might have taken temporary shelter from the storm. The hunters move cautiously into the darkness, their eyes adjusting. They smell the air. It is the smell of a healthy cave, cold, damp earth, the sharp, clean scent of minerals, and the faint, lingering, comforting ghost of old, cold smoke from their last fire. There is no musky, heavy scent of a large predator. They call back softly. The way is clear. The rest of the clan begins to move, shedding the burdens of the journey. Heavy hunting spears are leaned against the wall. The men set down their atlatls, the ingenious spear throwers that give their arms the power to bring down a bison. As they move deeper, the pale gray-blue light from the entrance fades. It is swallowed by a vast, pressing, and total darkness. This is a blackness unmatched on the surface, a primordial dark that seems to have a physical weight. The second ritual must now begin, the ritual of light. One of the elders carefully unslings a leather pouch. From it, she takes two items. The first is a shallow, beautifully carved bowl of sandstone. It is a stone lamp, perhaps much like the famous ones found at Lascaux. The second item is a small bladder containing rendered animal fat, the rich, high-energy marrow from a reindeer. She scoops a thumbful of the white, hard fat into the lamp's bowl. Then, she places a small wick made of dried juniper moss into the fat. Another member of the group is already at work, kneeling over a piece of dry tinder. He strikes a piece of iron pyrite against a sharp flint flake. A sharp mineral smell and a tiny, bright spark flies. It catches the tinder. It glows. He blows on it gently. The spark brightens, and with a soft whoosh, a tiny, fragile flame is born. He touches the flame to the moss wick in the stone lamp. The wick sputters, then catches. A small, steady, golden flame rises. It is a tiny pinprick of light against the immense, swallowing darkness. But it is enough. It illuminates their faces, revealing cheeks red from the cold, and ice clinging to their eyebrows. With this small, warm flame held high, the group moves past the twilight zone, their footsteps echoing on the hard-packed dirt and rock floor. They are moving deeper into the earth, toward the familiar, ancestral living chamber. They walk down a wide, sloping passage for another 100 feet. The air grows even more still. The last, faint echo of the storm is gone. They arrive in a wider, higher chamber, a place with a ceiling that vaults 30 feet above their heads, disappearing into shadow. This is their home. This is the living hearth. In the center of the chamber is the most important feature of their lives. It is the hearth. It is not a simple pile of blackened rocks. It is a carefully constructed feature, a shallow pit paved with flat stones and ringed by larger river cobbles. This design, found by archaeologists in sites across ancient Europe, was made to contain the fire and, just as importantly, to absorb and radiate its heat. Now, the third and most crucial ritual begins, the transformation of a cold rock shelter into a warm, living home. A man kneels by the hearth. He has his fire-starting kit ready. He holds a piece of dry Tinden fungus, the soft, velvety flesh of the amadou mushroom, carefully kept in a dry pouch. He strikes his flint against the iron pyrite. The sharp, mineral smell of the strike, a single, bright orange spark flies. It lands on the dark tinder. It glows. He leans in, shielding it with his hands, and blows. A gentle, steady breath. The tiny spark brightens, growing from a point of light to a small, red-hot ember. A wisp of gray smoke curls upwards. He carefully places the glowing tinder into a bundle of dry grass and shaved wood. He blows again, harder this time. There is a soft whoosh, a crackle, and the kindling catches. The first real, bright yellow flames climb upwards. This fire is not fed with damp, struggling wood gathered in a panic. Their survival depends on foresight. In a dry, high cleft of the cave, safe from moisture, is the fuel stockpiled from the previous autumn. Thick, seasoned branches of pine and oak gathered when the weather was warm and stored here for this exact moment. They lay the dry, heavy wood onto the growing fire. The flames roar to life. The effect is magical. The golden, dancing light pushes back the immense, ancient darkness. It illuminates the familiar, curving walls of their limestone home. The high ceiling is lit in a warm, flickering orange. The shadows dance. The sound of the fire's crackle is the only sound in the cave. It echoes softly, warmly, filling the chamber with a sound of life and safety. This fire is the center of their world. It is light. It is warmth. It is protection, a barrier that no cave, lion, or hyena will dare to cross. It is the tool they will use to cook their food, to harden the tips of their wooden spears, and to shape their stone tools. The fire is lit. The group's energy changes. The tension of the journey melts away. The first task is water. A young woman takes a hide bag to the cave mouth, gathering clean, fresh snow from a drift that has blown just inside the entrance. She brings it back and hangs it near the fire. One of the men uses 2 sticks to pick up a smooth, heavy stone from the edge of the hearth where it has been heating. He lowers the glowing red-hot stone into the hide bag. There is a loud, sharp hiss and a cloud of steam. He repeats this process, hot rock boiling. Within minutes, the snow has melted and they have clean, warm water. A portion of this is used to make a simple, hot broth, warming them from the inside out. They begin to roast strips of dried bison meat over the flames. The smell of cooking fills the air. The clan members begin to remove their heavy, snow-caked outer furs. They hang them on rock projections near the fire, but not too close. Steam begins to rise from the damp fur as the ice melts and the warmth of the fire reaches it. The shelter is secure. The fire is lit. The home is awake. But why is this place so profoundly comfortable? The fire is part of the answer, but the true secret, the real genius of this shelter, lies in the rock itself. It is a marvel of natural engineering. Let us explore the simple, elegant physics of this perfect sanctuary. This is the great insulator. Outside, the blizzard is now at its peak. The wind is a solid, screaming force. The temperature has plummeted to -30 degrees Celsius, perhaps even colder. It is a world that is actively hostile to life. But inside this cave, the laws of the surface world no longer apply. Deep inside the earth, beyond the reach of the sun's rays or the winter's wind, the temperature is not affected by the daily weather. It is constant. This deep cave zone holds a stable temperature that reflects the average yearly outside temperature of the region. During the Ice Age, in this part of the world, that stable baseline temperature might be a constant 10 or 12 degrees Celsius, 50 or 54 degrees Fahrenheit. This is not warm, but it is a miracle. It is a stable, predictable, and, most importantly, survivable temperature, given to them freely by the planet itself. This happens because the Earth is warmed from its core, a process known as the geothermal gradient. The rock all around them, extending for thousands of feet into the crust, holds this gentle, persistent, passive warmth. The rock has an immense thermal inertia, or thermal mass. It is a giant thermal battery. It cannot be chilled by a single night, or even a single month of cold weather. So, while the world outside rages at -30, the cave asterisk remains asterisk at 10 degrees. Now, add the fire. The hearth's fire adds new heat to this stable environment, but it doesn't just heat the air, which would quickly escape. It heats the asterisk, rock asterisk, the stone-lined hearth, the paved floor, and the limestone walls themselves absorb the fire's radiant energy, and then, slowly, evenly, they radiate that heat back out. The entire chamber becomes a gentle, massive stone radiator. A small child, now free of her heavy outer furs, leans back against the cave wall. She feels no chill. The rock feels neutral to the touch, not cold. The air on her face is still, carrying only the subtle, pleasant, radiant warmth from the limestone. This is the most critical factor of all. There is zero wind chill. That 10-degree air is perfectly, completely still. Not a single draft, not a flicker of movement, except for the soft, upward pull of the fire itself, which draws the smoke up to a high fissure in the ceiling, a natural chimney. 10 degrees with no wind is infinitely safer and more comfortable than 0 degrees with a strong wind. The cave has eliminated the greatest danger of the Ice Age. It has created a stable, safe, and predictable microclimate for human life. The family is now settled around the fire. The sound of the blizzard, the lethal storm that was threatening their lives just an hour ago, is now only a distant, muffled, almost imaginary howl. It is a rumor from another world, completely disconnected from their warm, safe, and calm reality. They are secure. They are warm. The immediate threat of the storm is over. It's truly remarkable to think about, isn't it? This sense of profound, ancient comfort, engineered by the earth itself. As we settle into this warm space with them, I'm curious, are there other ancient mysteries or lost worlds you'd love for us to explore together in a future story? Please let me know in the comments below. It's always wonderful to read your ideas. For now, let's explore just how this ancient sanctuary was organized. With the fire now a steady, breathing heart of light and warmth, the true nature of the living space begins to reveal itself. The immediate, desperate tension of the blizzard has faded, replaced by the deep, abiding calm of the sanctuary. This is no longer just a shelter. It is a home. And this home is not a simple, smoky den littered with the debris of survival. It is an organized, intelligent, and efficient space. It has been engineered for comfort by generations of experience, a living map of human ingenuity. Archaeological evidence from Paleolithic sites, like the remarkable open-air camp of Pinsevent in France, shows us that this spatial organization was a fundamental part of their lives. It was a deliberate, complex design. Let us take a quiet tour of this ancestral home, using the central hearth as our guide. This area, the proximal zone, is the very center of their world. It is the circle of golden light and radiant heat. This is the living room, the kitchen, and the fine craft workshop, all in one. Here, on furs laid out on the dry floor, is where the social life of the clan unfolds. Children listen to the soft, clear voices of their elders. The cave's natural acoustics, making every word intimate and easy to hear. It is here that food is prepared and shared, and it is here that delicate work is done. An elder sits, his back resting against a smooth rock. By the firelight, he is working on a new tool. We see the bright, sharp sparks fly as he shapes a piece of dark flint, the small, glittering waste flakes, the debitage, falling onto a designated hide at his feet. This specific, well-lit area is the Napper's Station, a place of focus and creation. The floor itself is not the cold, damp earth. In many of the most used areas, it has been paved over generations. The group has brought in hundreds of flat river pebbles or large, thin slabs of limestone. This was a monumental effort, all to create a dry level and clean surface to live on, insulating them from the chill and moisture of the cave floor. As we move away from the fire, the light softens, and the functions of the cave begin to change. In one alcove, set back from the main chamber, a heavy bearskin hide is hung like a thick curtain. It blocks any stray drafts and traps the heat from the fire, creating a smaller, warmer room. This is a sleeping area, a quiet, private space. In another direction, the cave floor slopes down, away from the living area. This is the butchering zone. When hunters bring back a large kill, it is processed here, well away from the clean, sleeping, and cooking spaces. This separation is critical for sanitation, keeping the main home free from the mess of this vital work. And what about waste? These people were not living in filth. They understood sanitation. In a specific, designated side cleft, near the entrance, but away from the living zone, is the midden, or the toss zone. Here, food scraps, broken bones, and other waste are discarded. This keeps the living hearth clean, odorless, and healthy. But perhaps the most ingenious zones are the ones that use the cave's natural properties. Let's walk deeper into the cave, past the living chamber, away from the fire. The light from the hearth fades, and we must rely on the small, sputtering flame of a stone lamp. The air changes. The radiant warmth of the fire is gone, replaced by a profound, stable chill. This is the cold storage zone. This is the pantry. We are now deep inside the earth, in a part of the cave that the fire's warmth never reaches. The temperature here is a constant, steady 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. It is a perfect, natural refrigerator, and the clan uses it as such. In this cold, dark, and perfectly still air, we can see large haunches of reindeer meat hanging from wooden hooks set in the rock. We see bladders filled with rendered fat and baskets of dried herbs. This intelligent, zoned living, this separation of sleeping, working, and storage, is the first layer of their sophisticated comfort. In fact, at some sites from this same period, like the incredible dwellings at Mazirik in Ukraine, humans built entire structures, inside the caves. They created great domed huts using the interlocking tusks, skulls, and bones of woolly mammoths, covering them in heavy hides. This was an architecture within an architecture, a home within a shelter, creating an even more insulated, private space for a single family, all protected by the greater sanctuary of the cave itself. From this wide view of the organized home, let us now zoom in. Let's focus on the single most important technology for comfort and rest, the Paleolithic bed. The group is not, as we might imagine, sleeping on cold, hard stone. They are sleeping on a sophisticated, multi-layered system of insulation and softness, a technology of comfort that is almost modern in its design. How do we know this? At sites like Sibadu Cave in South Africa, archaeologists have found the preserved remains of the oldest known bedding. It dates back over 77,000 years. This is not a new idea. It is an ancient, perfected art. And here, in this European cave, our Ice Age family is recreating that same ancient technology. The sleeping areas, those alcoves set back from the fire, are prepared with great care. The base of the bed, resting on the dry, paved stones, is a thick mattress of insulating vegetation. This is the foundation of comfort. During the late autumn, before the snows came, the group gathered armfuls of dry materials. They brought in thick bundles of sedges and rushes from the riverbank and piles of bracken fern from the sheltered woodlands. This base layer, perhaps a foot thick, is springy and soft, but its main purpose is thermal. It is filled with thousands of tiny, trapped air pockets. This trapped air is the ultimate insulator. It creates a warm, dry barrier that stops the passive chill of the rock from leaching away their body heat. It also keeps any potential dampness from rising, and this choice of materials is even more clever. Some of these plants, like the bracken fern, have natural insecticide properties. They contain compounds that repel mosquitoes, lice, and other pests, keeping the bedding clean and healthy. This is not luck. This is applied botanical knowledge, passed down for 1,000 generations. So, the foundation is a thick, springy, pest-resistant mattress of dry grass. What about the top? On this base, they lay the second layer, the soft, warm, and luxurious pelts of animals. These are the blankets and the top mattress, all in one. These are not raw, stiff hides. They are the products of a long, skilled process. The hides have been tanned, likely using the animal's own brain tissue, or perhaps by smoking them over the fire, or rubbing them with red ochre. This process has transformed the stiff skin into a soft, pliable, and incredibly durable leather, all while keeping the fur intact. We see the rich, deep brown of a cured bearskin. We see the thick, gray-white winter pelts of wolves, and the light, incredibly warm hides of reindeer. The firelight flickers on these different textures, on the coarse-scarred hairs of the reindeer and the soft, deep underfur of an Arctic fox. The smell in this sleeping alcove is not the smell of a den. It is the subtle, smoky, leathery scent of the tanned hides, mixed with the dry, grassy aroma of the mattress beneath. The sleeping area is not flat. It is a slight nest or depression, a shallow hollow in the thick bedding. This simple shape helps to trap body heat even further, and prevents the sleepers from rolling off the warm platform in the night. And finally, the last element of this perfect bed is warmth. The sleeping nests are positioned with perfect precision. They are close enough to the central hearth to feel its gentle, radiant heat, but far enough away to be completely clear of the smoke, which rises harmlessly to the high ceiling. Sleep here is also communal. The children do not sleep alone. They are nestled in the center of the family, their parents on either side, all sharing a single, enormous set of heavy fur blankets. This shared body warmth is the final, crucial element, creating a pocket of profound, secure, and living heat. Imagine the sensation, the feeling of sinking into that dry, springy mattress of grasses. The comforting, heavy weight of a cured bearskin blanket pressing down the incredible, enveloping softness of the fur against the skin. the feeling of shared warmth from the family sleeping close, and the sight of the fire flickering safely in the distance, casting a warm, gentle glow on the stone walls of the home. This is not the desperate sleep of survival. This is the deep, profound, and restorative sleep of absolute comfort. A comfortable bed is essential for rest, but to live here for weeks or even months while the blizzard howls outside, the clan needs more than warmth. They need a reliable, abundant source of food. They need a pantry. We have already visited the cold storage zone, that deep, chilled chamber far from the fire. Now, let us look at what is asterisk in asterisk it. This cave is not just a refrigerator. It is a larder, a fortress of calories against the long winter. The group's survival depends on the hunts and gathering of the successful autumn. In the coldest part of the cave, in a chamber where the temperature never rises above freezing, we can see the true genius of their planning. Here, the rock walls are slick with ice. In some crevices, the perennially frozen ground, the permafrost, is exposed. This is not a refrigerator. This is a deep freezer. Here, we see the massive haunches of a steppe bison, frozen solid. We see entire reindeer, skinned and stored, perfectly preserved by the natural deep cold. This is catching, the practice of storing large amounts of meat in a natural freezer, safe from predators and from spoilage. But not all the food is frozen. In the slightly warmer refrigerator section, where the air is a stable 4 degrees, other foods are kept. Hide bags are filled with dried berries, gathered from the low-growing bushes in the late summer. We see caches of hazelnuts and even acorns, which they have learned to process to remove the bitterness. Edible roots, dug from the hard ground, are piled in a basket woven from willow. This is the gathered, stable food, but the true wealth is the animal, and they use every single part of it. Back near the hearth, another kind of food preparation is always happening. Hanging from a wooden rack, high above the flames in the warm, smoky air, are long, thin strips of reindeer meat. This is preservation. The meat is being slowly smoked and dried, turned into a lightweight, long-lasting, and nutrient-dense jerky. This is food that can be carried on a long hunt or eaten as a simple, quick meal. Fat and marrow are the most critical high-energy foods of the Ice Age. Nothing is wasted. In the butchering zone, we see a bone cache, a large pile of thick mammoth and bison bones. An elder sits by this pile, a heavy, smooth cobble in his hand. He places a large bison femur on a flat anvil stone. With a rhythmic, heavy sound, he smashes the bone open. He then uses a smaller, finer bone tool to scrape out the rich, buttery paleolo marrow from within. This marrow is pure, high-energy fat, and it is a prized food, eaten immediately or stored in a hide bag. But they go even further. The smashed bone fragments are then gathered and placed in a hide bag filled with water, which is brought to a boil using the hot rock method. As the bones boil, the last remaining traces of fat and collagen, the bone grease, are rendered out. This grease floats to the surface, where it is skimmed off and stored. It is the ultimate extraction of calories. This is how they survive. They are not living from hand to mouth. They are living on a surplus, carefully planned, expertly preserved, and stored in a perfect, natural pantry. They have frozen meat for roasts, dried meat for journeys, rendered fat for energy, and smoked meat for flavor. They have shelter. They have perfect beds. They have a full pantry. This means that the long, dark days of winter are not a time of passive, bored waiting. They are not a time of desperation. Instead, this firelit sanctuary becomes a busy, productive, and creative space. Welcome to the Paleolithic workshop. The downtime of winter, the time spent safe from the storms, is the perfect opportunity for industry. This is when they repair their gear, create new tools, sew new clothes, and, remarkably, make art. The sound of the workshop is the sharp, rhythmic tink, tink, tink of the flint knapper. The man by the fire is not just making a crude chopper. He is a master of his craft. He is not striking the flint with another hard stone. He is using a soft hammer, a baton carved from a heavy reindeer antler. This softer tool allows him to strike off flakes that are much thinner, flatter, and more precise. He is engaged in lithic reduction, carefully working a core of high-quality flint. His goal is to create something like the famous laurel leaf blades of the Solutrean period. These are tools so thin, so perfectly symmetrical, and so beautifully made that they are translucent. They are masterpieces of craftsmanship, as much art as they are tools. In another part of the firelit circle, a woman is at work. Beside her is a pile of cured fox pelts. In her hand is a fine, polished bone needle, an awl for punching holes, and a roll of thread made from dried reindeer sinew. She is sewing. She is crafting a new, warm tunic for her child. Her stitches small, tight, and perfectly even. Nearby, another man is carving. He holds a piece of antler, and with a sharp flint burin, he is etching a design. He is carving a new atlatl, a spear thrower. This technology is a force multiplier, an extension of the human arm that allows a hunter to throw a spear with incredible speed and force. But this is not just a tool. The handle is being carved into the shape of a leaping ibex, its head turned back to look over its own body. It is an object of power and of beauty. And this is where the cave transforms from a workshop into a studio. The walls of this cave are not bare. Here and there, we see the deep red and yellow stains of ochre. We see the black, powdery lines of charcoal. In a small, hollowed-out stone, an artist is preparing her paint. She has a lump of red ochre, a mineral-rich iron oxide, which she has ground into a fine, bright red powder. Now, she mixes this powder with a binder. Perhaps she uses clean cave water, or rendered animal fat, or even blood or plant sap. She mixes it into a thick, rich paste. Her light is not the great central fire. Her light is a small, simple stone lamp, its wick of juniper moss burning in a pool of clear marrow fat. She takes this small, flickering lamp and moves deeper into a quieter, more sacred part of the cave. The light dances on the pale limestone walls. In this moving, living light, the natural bumps and curves of the rock seem to suggest shapes. A bulge in the rock becomes the heavy shoulder of a bison. A crack becomes the line of a back. Here, in the dark, she paints. She uses her fingers, or a brush of animal fur, or a hollowed bird bone to blow the pigment onto the wall. The flickering, dancing shadows from her fat lamp make the animal shapes seem to move in the gloom. They seem to breathe, to run, to flicker with life. And in a small, private niche, someone has left a small, carved object. It is a Venus figurine, a small, palm-sized statue of a woman carved from mammoth ivory. It is not a portrait, but an object of ritual, of meaning, of a complex spiritual life we can only guess at. This firelit world, so full of skill and creativity, feels incredibly alive. It's a powerful reminder that home has always been a place of creation. As we feel the warmth of that central hearth, think about our own homes. What's one small thing that gives you that same sense of comfort and security? It's a nice thought to hold on to as we settle deeper. The work of the day is done. The food has been prepared. The tools are mended. As the day in the cave comes to an end, the community gathers around the fire, leading us into the internal social world of the long Paleolithic night. The work of the firelit workshop is now done. The last tool has been mended, the last story told for the day. A different kind of quiet now begins to settle over the great stone chamber. The pace of the world slows, drawing inwards, settling towards the inevitable, welcome rest. The chaotic, violent world of the blizzard, the world of wind and stinging ice, is now a distant memory. It is a story from another time, a world that cannot touch them here. They are enveloped in a new world, a world defined not by noise, but by the subtle, comforting, and rhythmic sounds of the sanctuary. This is the soundscape of profound safety. The primary sound, the one that has been the steady companion since they arrived, is the fire. But it is no longer the bright, energetic crackle of a freshly fed flame. The adults have banked the hearth for the night, covering the glowing deep red embers with a careful layer of gray ash. This is an act of preservation, a way to make the fire's warmth last until morning, smoldering slowly rather than burning out. And so, the sound of the fire changes. It becomes a deep, low, and steady pulse. There is the gentle, soft pop of a shifting ember, the faint, warm hiss of a pocket of sap. It is not a sound you hear with your ears, so much as one you feel in your chest. It is the steady, sleeping breath of the home itself. With the fire now quiet, the true sound of the cave emerges. It is a profound, deep, and total quiet. This silence is not empty. It is not the cold, sterile silence of a modern, soundproof room. It is a rich, full, and ancient silence. It is the sound of 10,000 tons of solid rock, a massive, unbreachable shield separating this small, warm chamber from the raging world above. In this deep quiet, you can feel the absence of the storm. There is no howl of wind. There is no rattle of ice against stone. There is no branch scraping, no tree groaning, no distant cry of a predator on the hunt. All the sounds of the dangerous, open world are gone. They have been erased, leaving only this perfect, warm stillness. Into this beautiful, deep silence, the other, softer sounds of the cave are born. Far away, in a distant, dark chamber that this clan never uses, a single drop of water gathers on the tip of a stalactite. It grows heavy, and then it falls, landing in a shallow, still pool. Plink, a long, soft silence. Plink. It is a hypnotic, gentle rhythm. It is the sound of geological time, the slow, patient pulse of the earth itself. It is a natural clock, measuring the night not in hours, but in slow, steady, peaceful moments. And then there are the sounds of life, the soft, muffled rustle of someone shifting in their thick fur bedding. The heavy, warm fur slides against the dry grass mattress, a sound of pure comfort. A child murmurs in their sleep, a soft, dreamlike sound that is immediately soothed by the low, melodic hum of a mother. There is the sound of breathing, the soft, regular, and rhythmic breaths of the family unit sleeping close together. The gentle inhale, the slow exhale. It is a communal sound, a chorus of life, a constant, quiet reassurance that everyone is safe, everyone is here. Even the last, lingering movements of the day are soft. The gentle scrape of an elder, idly polishing a piece of carved antler before sleep. The soft, padded footstep of a young adult on the dry, paved floor as they add one last piece of wood to the edge of the hearth, preparing it for the morning. The acoustics of the cave itself are a comfort. The high limestone ceiling and uneven walls do not create sharp, startling echoes. Instead, they dampen and soften every sound. Voices are clear, but never harsh. The soft rustle of the firs is intimate. The distant drip of water is rounded and full. The cave is a cocoon of sound, wrapping the clan in a blanket of deep, profound, and steady quiet. This is the sound of absolute security. It is the first, crucial ingredient for a perfect night's sleep. This blanket of comforting, gentle sound creates a deep and abiding sense of peace. The body, no longer braced against the cold or the wind, can finally unclench. The mind, no longer listening for danger, can finally let go. This peace is then amplified, made deeper and more profound by the presence of the group. The work of the day is over. The last meal has been shared. The hunters have checked the entrance one final time, confirming the storm still rages and that they are perfectly safe within. Now, the clan gathers by the dwindling fire. This is the social climax of their day. This is the communal heart. The fire, even as it banks to embers, remains the social center. It is a deep human archetype, an instinct that draws us to the light and warmth. The group sits in a loose circle, their faces illuminated in a soft, warm, pulsing red from the embers. The energy is calm, reflective, and deeply connected. This is the time for storytelling. An elder, his face a beautiful map of lines, begins to speak. His voice is low, rhythmic, and clear in the gentle acoustics. He is not just telling a story to pass the time. He is weaving the identity of the clan. He tells the story of the first fire, how a clever ancestor captured a burning branch from a lightning-struck tree, and how they learned to feed it and keep it alive, becoming masters of the cold. He tells the story of the great reindeer, a mythic white reindeer that leads the herds, and how respecting its spirit ensures a successful hunt. This is cosmology, their way of understanding the world, of giving it meaning and order. He tells the history of their own clan, the story of the long walk their grandparents took to find this very cave, and the promise they made to always return. This is their shared identity, their connection to the past, and their bond to this specific, sacred place. The children, their eyes wide in the firelight, listen. They are absorbing their culture, their rules for survival, and their sense of belonging. The stories explain the art on the walls, giving life to the silent, painted bison and the rows of red handprints. But the bonding is not just in words. It is in simple, physical touch. A mother sits with her young child, her fingers gently combing through their hair, a quiet, primate act of social grooming. It is a simple, comforting, and loving touch that conveys safety and care more powerfully than any words. Two friends sit leaning back to back, their shoulders pressed together. It is an easy, comfortable silence, the simple, shared warmth and solid presence of another trusted human being. There is no need for words. The connection is physical and complete. A child, warm and heavy with sleep, leans against an adult. It might be their father, or their uncle, or an older cousin. It doesn't matter. This is an alloparenting family, where all adults help to care for the children. The child feels the steady rise and fall of the adult's breathing and drifts into a safe, protected sleep. They are safe in numbers. This is a profound psychological comfort. The individual is not alone against the world. They are one part of a strong, cooperative, and deeply trusted group. The unbreachable rock walls of the cave protect them from the outside, and the unbreakable bonds of the clan protect them from within. And consider what is absent from this firelit circle. There are no abstract answers. There are no deadlines, no schedules, no anxieties about a future they cannot control. Their world is governed by the natural, slow rhythms of the body and the fire. The only time that matters is the setting of the sun, the coming of the storm, the needs of the body. Their life is immediate, physical, and deeply real. This lack of modern, abstract anxiety creates a profound, uncluttered peace of mind. They are a multi-generational family, a complete unit. The wisdom of the elders, the strength of the hunters, the skill of the crafters, and the life of the children, all are here together. They are a single, successful, and resilient organism, perfectly adapted to their world. The body is fed, the body is warm, the body is safe, the mind is at peace, surrounded by its community, steeped in its history, and free from fear. Now the final, inevitable, and welcome step begins. Sleep. One by one, the clan members move from the firelit circle to their sleeping nests. They move with the slow, deliberate motions of people who are already half asleep. This is the primal sleep. This is the heart of our story. A mother and father settle into their alcove, the children already curled between them. They sink into the bed, and the sensation is one of total, enveloping comfort. First, there is the feeling of the mattress, that thick, springy layer of woven grasses and ferns. It cushions the body, insulating it completely from the rock below. Then, there is the feeling of the furs, the soft, deep fur of the top mattress, and the heavy, comforting weight of the great bearskin blanket they pull over themselves. The weight is a reassurance, a physical presence that signals safety. The fire is now just a collection of embers, a dull, deep, pulsing red glow in the center of the chamber. The great dancing shadows are gone. The world is returning to the profound, velvety darkness of the deep cave. This darkness is a signal. It is a biological trigger. As the last light fades, the brain responds. It begins to produce melatonin, the hormone of sleep. This is not a forced sleep, but a natural, gentle, and irresistible tide. The temperature in the alcove is perfectly stable. The stone walls, which absorbed the fire's heat all day, are now slowly, gently radiating that warmth back. The heavy hide curtain blocks any stray movement of air. There are no drafts. There are no cold spots. The air is still, warm, and thick. And this is where the final and most profound comfort sets in. The mind is free from hypervigilance. On the open steppe, every sound is a potential threat. A snapping twig, a distant howl, the crunch of a footstep. The mind must remain on watch, even in sleep, tense and ready. But here, in the womb of the earth, there is no need. The mind knows, with an ancient and absolute certainty, that it is safe. The storm cannot reach it. The cave lion cannot enter. The walls are a shield. The group is a guard. The hunter's muscles, coiled and ready for days, finally go slack. The shoulders drop. The breathing deepens. The body becomes a heavy, warm, and pleasant weight. The mind lets go. It sinks down, 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 into the warm, soft, dark. Perhaps this is the first sleep that some historians speak of. A deep, profound dive into rest for several hours. Then, in the deep middle of the night, a moment of quiet, peaceful wakefulness. Someone, designated to the watch, quietly rises. They move to the hearth, the only one awake in the breathing darkness. They gently push the ash aside, revealing the bright, hot embers. They add a single, dry log. The log catches, the embers glow, and for a moment, a soft, warm light flickers, revealing the sleeping forms of the clan, safe in their nests. The watcher is reassured. All is well. They return to their furs, and the chamber sinks back into darkness. The clan members, barely having stirred, drift down into the second sleep, a deep, restorative, and peaceful rest that will last until the morning. This is ancestral sleep, deep, secure, restorative, and perfectly aligned with the natural, ancient rhythms of the body, the fire, and the earth. The family is asleep, lost in the deep, warm, and total quiet. They are completely safe, wrapped in a fortress of stone, drifting on a soft bed of fur and grass. But the mind is never truly still. In this perfect, safe, dark place, the mind is free to dream. This is the dream time. The profound, absolute darkness is a canvas for the mind. With no light to stimulate the eyes, the brain is free to create its own vivid, internal imagery. Perhaps the theories of scholars like David Lewis Williams are true. Perhaps the great art on the cave walls is a record of these dreams, these shamanic visions. As the mind drifts on the very edge of sleep, in the hypnagogic state, it sees the first images. These are not yet dreams, but the entoptic phenomena, the geometric dots, the shimmering grids, the zigzags and spirals that the brain creates from its own internal wiring. These are the same shapes, the same mysterious patterns that they have carved onto bones and painted on the distant, sacred walls. The dream begins with these patterns. Then the patterns merge and take form. What do they dream about, these ancient minds, in this perfect, safe darkness? They dream of the hunt. They process the intense, high-stakes adrenaline of their lives. In the dream, the bison runs, its hooves thundering in a silent, slow-motion landscape. The spear flies, an extension of the hunter's will. These are dreams of focus, of survival, of the deep, complex relationship they have with the animals they both respect and depend on. They dream of the animals themselves, the power, the spirit, and the otherness of the megafauna. The painted bison on the wall, the one they saw in the flickering firelight, now comes alive in the mind. It is a spirit bison, a guide, a force of nature. They dream of the community. They process the social bonds, the stories, the shared laughter. These dreams reinforce their belonging, their trust in one another. And they dream of the cave, of the stone itself, of the earth, of the fire. They dream of a sense of oneness with their environment, a feeling of being held and protected. The safety of the cave, this absolute release from hypervigilance, allows for deep, long, and healthy REM sleep. This is the state where the most vivid dreams occur, the state of mental and emotional processing. This deep, dream-filled rest is not a luxury. It is the final, essential part of their survival. It is the ultimate expression of their mastery of the long, cold, and brutal winter. And so, deep within the heart of the frozen earth, our ancestors found their sanctuary. The great blizzard howls miles above them, a forgotten story in another world. Down in the warm, still, quiet dark, they are safe, wrapped in furs and community, drifting in the deep, primal sleep that is their birthright. This story, our shared story, is now resting. I hope this journey into the ancestral night has brought you a sense of peace. If you're still with us, I'd love to know what part of their world felt the most comforting to you. Thank you for joining us in this warm place. We're going to let this scene rest and drift a little further into the ideas this piece inspires. The long night has ended. The fire has been fed, the stories told, and the sounds of the deep winter have faded into the background. The family is safe, and the shaman has returned from the deep galleries. Our story of this single night, 30,000 years ago, is complete, but the echo of that night remains. It resonates within us. It is a feeling we still chase, a comfort we still build, a dream we still remember. The story of our ancestors is over, but the legacy of their lives and the refuge they built against the cold is written into our very instincts. Why does a warm room on a cold night feel so profoundly good? Why is a small, quiet corner so much more relaxing than an open, exposed space? Why does the sound of rain outside a window bring us such a deep, internal peace? These feelings are not accidents, they are memories, they are the whispers of the cave. The pace of our journey now slows. All tension is gone. There is nothing to fear, nothing to hunt, nothing to guard against. There is only reflection. Let us drift together into this gentle, quiet epilogue and explore the deep, ancient inheritance of that safety. Let us explore the echo of the cave. This echo has a name in our modern world. In 1975, an English geographer named J. Appleton proposed an idea. It was a simple yet profound theory that sought to explain why humans find certain landscapes beautiful and why certain environments make us feel an immediate, instinctive sense of well-being. He called it the prospect fruge theory. The premise is elegant. It suggests that our sense of aesthetic pleasure, our very definition of what is beautiful or cozy, is not a modern invention. It is an evolutionary adaptation. It is a hardwired instinct, passed down from a time when survival depended on seeing the world without being seen by it. The theory is built on two simple concepts. The first is refuge. This is a place of safety, of concealment. It is a place where we are protected, where our back is covered, and where we are sheltered from the elements and from predators. It is the deep, warm, dark interior of the cave. The second concept is prospect. This is a place of observation. It is an unimpeded view out over the landscape. It is the ability to see opportunity like a herd of deer in the distance. And just as importantly, it is the ability to see danger, a predator or a rival group, long before it can see you. Now, imagine these two concepts combined. Imagine a place that is both a perfect refuge and a perfect prospect. What would that be? It would be the mouth of the cave, sitting there, just inside the entrance, shielded by rock, warmed by the fire. Our ancestors had a perfect, commanding view of the valley below. They were completely safe, yet completely aware. This, Appleton argued, is the birthplace of our sense of environmental comfort. This is not just a practical preference. It is an evolved, aesthetic one. We are drawn to these places. Our brains reward us with feelings of peace, safety, and control when we find them. And this ancient wiring, forged in the Paleolithic, explains so much about our modern lives. our homes, and our simple daily comforts. Think of the profound, simple comfort of a cozy nook, a small alcove, a reading corner, tucked away under a staircase. We instinctively seek out these small, enclosed spaces. We feel a sense of release when we settle into them. We have found a tiny, modern cave, or consider the timeless appeal of a window seat. This is perhaps the most perfect modern example of prospect refuge. We are inside, in the refuge of the house, warm and secure. Yet, we have a clear prospect of the world outside. We can sit with a book and a warm drink and watch the wind move through the trees, or see the snow fall, or listen to a distant storm. This explains the feeling you get, that deep, satisfying peace, when you are warm inside, watching a heavy rainstorm. The glass is our new cave wall. It allows us to observe the power of the elements, the prospect of the storm, from a place of absolute refuge. We are not in the rain, we are observers of it, and that feeling is an ancient, primal contentment. This instinct explains why a house with a high view is so valued. A high-floor apartment or a home on a hill gives us a powerful sense of prospect. We can see for miles, but this is only comforting if the house itself feels secure. A glass house with a great view, but that feels exposed, creates anxiety. The refuge must be as strong as the prospect is wide. This instinct even shapes the design of our furniture. Think of a high-backed armchair. Why does it feel so much more relaxing than a simple stool? Because it is a portable refuge. It covers our vulnerable back, shielding us from the behind. Even in an open room, it is a small personal throne of safety. You can settle into it, and the high back and arms create a micro-environment, a personal cave. The same is true for a booth in a quiet restaurant. Given the choice, most people will instinctively prefer a booth over a table in the middle of the room. Why? Because in a booth, our back is to the wall. We are protected. We have a clear prospect of the room, but we cannot be easily surprised from behind. We have, without thinking, chosen the most defensible, and therefore most relaxing, position. What does all of this provide? What is the feeling we are chasing? It is a feeling of control and safety. These are the absolute prerequisites for true relaxation, for creative thought, and for sleep. You cannot truly rest if some ancient, primal part of your brain feels exposed. You must first feel secure. The refuge provides that security. We even build these refuges consciously, creating sacred spaces of comfort. The modern man cave, or she shed, a personal room, a workshop, a small studio in the garden. These are places designed to be a perfect, private refuge, a place to disconnect from the world and feel a sense of total control. And what is the purest, most simple expression of this instinct? It is a child building a blanket fort, taking pillows and chairs, draping sheets, and creating a small, dark, enclosed space. That feeling of joy and security inside the fort. That is the echo. That is the cave. It is the creation of a perfect, tiny refuge. Other cultures have words that capture this deep, resonant feeling. The Danish concept of hygge, which you might pronounce as hygge. This word means more than just coziness. It is a feeling of contentment, warmth, and security, often shared with loved ones. It is the feeling of being in a warm refuge with good company while the cold world is outside. There is also the German word Gemütlichkeit, or gem-oot-lich-kite. This describes a similar feeling, a sense of warmth, friendliness, and belonging. the feeling of a space that is cheerful, comfortable, and safe. These words, these habits, these architectural choices, they are all pointing back to the same ancient truth. We are the descendants of the people of the refuge. The dim, low light of a quiet library. The feeling of being tucked in to a small, safe, enclosed space. The instinctual, magnetic draw we feel to a modern fireplace. We are just sitting at the mouth of the cave, finding our peace. This deep, ancient love of the refuge explains the comfort of the cave. But what of the world? They built inside that refuge. What did they fill the darkness with? This theory explains the refuge But now, let us explore the prospect they chose to create. Not a view of the world outside, but a view of the world within Let us drift into the waking dream of their art. Let us drift deeper into the earth, past the living space, past the reach of the sun's faint light. We leave the area of comfort and practicality, and we begin a journey into the dark. The air grows cooler, damper. The only sound is the shuffling of our feet on the gritty floor and the faint drip, drip of water somewhere in the blackness. Our only light comes from a simple lamp, a hollowed-out piece of sandstone. In its basin sits rendered animal fat, tallow. A wick, perhaps made of dried moss or juniper, sputters and smokes. It throws a small, flickering, dancing circle of light. This light is our only anchor. This is the world of the Paleolithic artist. We must understand this journey. The art of the caves was, in most cases, not decoration for their living space. It was placed in the deepest, most difficult to reach chambers. It was a pilgrimage. The journey into the total darkness, the sensory deprivation, the silence, the faint, earthy smell of the limestone. This was part of the experience. It was a journey into another world. And then, in the flickering, moving light of the fat lamp, the walls come alive. We see them, the big four of the Paleolithic world. First, the horses, not the slender animals of today, but the stocky, tough, wild horses of the steppe. Their manes, stiff, they are painted with a profound understanding of their form, their solid, powerful bodies captured in a few confident strokes. Then, the bison, the great steppe bison, with their enormous shoulders, low-hanging heads, and long, curved horns. They are often painted in vast panels, a thundering herd that seems to emerge from the rock itself. We see the aurochs, the giant, wild ancestors of modern cattle. They are immense, imposing, their horns wide and sharp. To paint one was to capture a truly formidable power. And finally, the deer and stags, the megaloceros, the giant Irish elk, with its delicate legs and a vast, branching forest of antlers. They represent a different kind of energy, swift, graceful, and aware. The art is not on the wall. It is of the wall. This is the magic. The artist, in the flickering light, did not see a blank canvas. They saw a bulge in the rock, and recognized in it the powerful shoulder of a bison. They saw a crack in the stone, and used it as the wound from a spear, or the line of an animal's back. They were not painting onto the stone. They were releasing the animal that already lived within it. The skill is breathtaking. In this dim, unsteady light, there is no sketching, there is no erasing. There is only a single, perfect, confident line, drawn from memory. These artists, these animals, they had watched them for a lifetime. They understood their anatomy, their weight, their balance, and, it seems, their spirit. There is a profound sense of movement. These are not static drawings. They are animals in motion, and these animals are not alone. They are often superimposed, painted directly over each other. A panel might show a horse, and painted over that, a large bison, and over that, the faint, faded outline of a mammoth from an even earlier time. This was not a lack of space. This was intentional. It suggests that generations of artists, for thousands of years, returned to the same sacred, powerful spots on the wall, adding their own vision, their own power, to the layers that came before. It is a deep, layered timeline of human consciousness. The colors they used were the colors of the earth itself. The palette was simple and powerful. There was red. This came from hematite, or red ochre, a form of iron oxide. It is the color of blood, the color of life. We can imagine them finding these soft stones, grinding them into a fine, rich powder. The smell would be earthy, a mineral scent. There was black. This came from manganese dioxide, a mineral found in the cave, or from simple, pure charcoal taken from the hearth. It was the color of shadow, of night, of the deep, unlit galleries. And there was yellow. This came from goethite, another iron oxide, an earthy, warm, golden color. Their techniques were ingenious. They drew directly onto the stone with sticks of charcoal or lumps of raw ochre. They daubed pigment on with pads of fur or moss, creating soft, textured areas. And they invented a form of spray painting. They would mix the fine, ground pigment with a binder in their mouths, perhaps water or saliva or animal fat. Then they would place their hand on the cool, damp, slightly gritty surface of the limestone wall. They would spray the pigment from their mouth over and around their hand, and when they lifted their hand, a ghost remained. These are the hand stencils, hundreds of them, mostly negative prints, though some are positive, daubed with pigment and pressed to the wall. They are a profound human connection, a signature reaching across 30,000 years. It is a voice, clear and simple, saying, "I was here, I touched this world, this is me." For some, it may have been a way of touching the spirit world, placing their hand on the membrane between their world and the next. But it is not just animals and hands. In the dark, there are also the signs, the geometric shapes, rows of dots, grids of lines, club-like shapes, which researchers call claviforms. What are these? They are not of the animal world. They may be entoptic phenomena. This is a word for the shapes one sees in altered states of consciousness. The shapes you see when you close your eyes tightly or when you are on the very edge of sleep. The patterns behind the eyelids. It is possible these artists were not just painting the world outside, but also the world within a map of their own inner waking dream. Now, imagine it all together. The deep, silent, sacred darkness, the cool, damp air, and the single, flickering fat lamp. As the light dances, the shadows move. The bulge of the bison's shoulder seems to ripple. The legs of the horses seem to shift. The great panel of red bison, superimposed on one another, seem to stampede in the eternal, moving dark. The animals breathe. They are alive. This art, born of darkness and fire, connected them to their spiritual world. But their daily survival, their comfort, their refuge, was rooted in the physical world. A world of materials they understood with their hands. Let us return from the deep galleries Let us go back to the living space, near the fire, and settle into the world of touch. Our journey now becomes purely tactile. Let us explore the feel of their world, the textures that made up their reality. Begin with the most important stone, flint. Find a nodule, cold and heavy. The outside is rough, chalky, but when you strike it, it breaks with a conchoidal fracture. This is a shell-like, curved break, like thick glass. The new, fresh edge is waxy, smooth, almost glassy, and it is sharper than a surgeon's scalpel. Run your thumb very carefully near that edge. You can feel its potential, its keenness. This is the edge that built their world. Then there is the counterpoint to flint, sandstone. Pick up a piece. It is rough, gritty, abrasive. Feel the texture. It is a surface of 1,000 tiny, sharp teeth. It is not for cutting, but for grinding, for shaping, for sanding a spear shaft smooth, or for grinding seeds and ochre. Or perhaps it is the striker, raked against a piece of pyrite to create the spark for the fire, and the stone of color, ochre. Find a soft lump of it, a deep, rusty red clay. Rub it between your fingers. It is soft, chalky. It leaves a deep stain on your skin. Grind it, and it becomes a fine, soft, airy powder. This is the color of art, of ritual, of life itself. The feel of it is the feel of paint, of earth, of magic. The thread of this world was not woven from plants. It was harvested from animals. Take a length of dried animal sinew, perhaps from the long tendons of a deer's leg. It is stiff, almost brittle, but pound it gently with a smooth stone. It begins to separate. It becomes fibrous. You can peel it apart into strong, stringy, powerful threads. This is the string for the bow. This is the thread that binds the flint point to the wooden spear. That sinew would be used to stitch hides, but the hides themselves must be transformed. A raw hide is stiff and useless, but after the long, laborious process of scraping, soaking, and rubbing it with the animal's own brain, it becomes something new. It becomes soft, brain-tanned, deer hide. Feel it. It has the texture of modern suede, but richer, with a faint, smoky smell from being finished over a fire. This is the material of clothing, of bags, of life. But for the deep cold, for the bedding, they needed more. They needed insulation. Imagine the heavy, oily, comforting feel of a thick, bare fur blanket. There are two textures. The outer layer is made of coarse, long guard hairs that repel water and snow. But beneath that is the undercoat. A soft, incredibly dense, slightly crimped layer of fur that traps body heat. The sheer weight of it is a comfort, pressing you down into your bed. Their tools were of the earth and of the forest. Take a simple wooden spear. The shaft has been scraped smooth, but the tip is special. It has been fire-hardened. It was held carefully over the embers of the hearth, steaming and charring slightly, until the wood became harder, denser, and smoother than the rest of the shaft. You can feel the grain of the wood, but it is now a hard, sharp, lethal point. And then there is the polish of bone and antler. These materials are harder than wood, more resilient. Imagine an antler tool, perhaps a lissier, a smoother, used for rubbing hides to make them soft and waterproof. It has been used for years. It fits the palm of your hand perfectly. The surface, polished by countless hours of work and the oils of the hand, is incredibly smooth. It is dense and cool to the touch. It is a tool worn into perfection by the hand that held it. Finally, the mattress itself, what lies beneath the heavy furs. Not more fur, but piles of dry moss and grass, gathered from the steppe in the brief summer. Lie down on it. It is light. It is springy. It is slightly brittle. You can hear the dry, gentle, springy rustle as you settle into it. It has a faint, dry, herbal smell. It is the soft, dry floor of the living cave. We have explored the textures of their home, the sharp flint, the gritty sandstone, the chalky ochre, the fibrous sinew, the supple hide, the heavy fur, the hardened wood, the polished antler, the dry, springy moss. This was their sensory world. This was the feel of their refuge. Now, let us drift outside, just for a moment. Let us leave the tactile world of the cave and look out from that safe refuge at the prospect it overlooked. The world these textures were drawn from, a world of giants. This is a calm, quiet bestiary. We are observing, not hunting. The air is cold. The vast, frozen steppe stretches out before us, and on it the lost megafauna. First, the giants of this world, the woolly mammoth. They stand 11 or 12 feet tall at the shoulder. Their coats are shaggy, a mix of brown and black. Their long curved tusks, sometimes 15 feet long, sweep down and then up, perfect for clearing snow to find grass. You can hear the low rumbling sound of the herd, a vibration you feel in your chest. They were not just animals, they were a source of life. Mountains of food, ivory for tools and art, and giant bones and tusks to build shelters. Another giant grazer moves through the snow. The woolly rhinoceros. It is solitary, its head held low. Its thick, shaggy coat is dusted with frost. It has 2 large horns, the front one long and flattened, like a blade, for pushing through the snow. There were hunters, too, great predators. The cave lion. It was, perhaps, 25% larger than any lion that lives today. And as the art in the caves shows us, it was likely with no mane, a sleek, powerful, and deeply respected hunter. Imagine, in the twilight, seeing the glint of its eyes, watching from a distant ridge. The most common sight, the sound of the steppe, was the bison. The steppe bison, larger than their modern cousins, with long, imposing horns. They were the great subject of the art, the great source of food. We see them in the distance, a vast, slow-moving shadow, a river of fur and muscle, their breath pluming in the cold air. And then, a creature of profound, almost impossible grace, the megaloceros, often called the Irish elk, a giant deer. But its true wonder was its antlers, a vast, branching span, 12 feet wide, from tip to tip. Imagine it moving silently through a grove of leafless trees, its antlers like a second forest, moving with it. There was another giant, one that shared the human desire for refuge, the cave bear, an enormous animal, larger than a modern grizzly. It was mostly herbivorous, but it was a rival for the caves themselves. Humans seeking shelter would often find the deep galleries littered with the bones of bears that had hibernated there and never woken up. There were smaller, stranger animals, the saiga antelope, which still exists today. You can see its distinctive, humped nose, a fleshy proboscis that was perfectly adapted for warming the freezing dry air of the steppe before it reached the lungs. And the wild horse, the ancestor of the horse we call Persualskis. It was stocky, tough, dun-colored, with a stiff, upright mane. It roamed in large, nervous herds, a constant presence on the plains. Finally, there was the sound of competition in the night, the laugh and crack of the cave hyena, a large, powerful scavenger and predator. It was a direct competitor for food and for the caves themselves. A creature of the cold dark, to be watched and to be avoided. This was the world they lived in. It was not a world asterisk against asterisk them, but a world they were asterisk, part asterisk, of coexistence, of deep, careful observation, and of profound respect. This respect, this understanding, is what they captured on the walls, in the deep, waking dream of the cave. This lost world, populated by giants and governed by ice, was the canvas for our ancestors' lives. But inside their refuge, they created a world of their own, a world of warmth, art, and dreams. This echo of the cave, this instinct for a safe, warm place, still lives in all of us. It's a nice thought to hold on to as you drift. If you are still awake, perhaps you can feel that ancient sense of safety, that feeling of prospect and of refuge. But there is no need to hold on. Just let the feeling carry you. Let it carry you into your own rest. There is a different kind of time in the deep cave. It is a time that is not measured by the rising and setting of the sun. It is not tracked by the hands of a clock. In the deep, warm, unchanging sanctuary of the earth, there is no day, there is no night, there is only a long, continuous, gentle present. The passage of hours, days, and weeks becomes a different thing entirely. It becomes subjective. Here, time itself seems to slow down. It stretches, like honey pouring gently from a comb, thick and slow and sweet. It is a time measured not in minutes, but in breaths. It is a time measured by the steady, slow pulse of the earth, and by the rhythms of the living bodies gathered in the warmth. The only true clock in this timeless place is the human body, and, of course, the fire. The fire is the heart of this small world. It is the unwavering, central point around which all life orbits, and like any heart, it must be tended, it must be kept alive. This necessity creates its own natural, human-based clock. There would have always been someone on watch, not a soldier's watch, filled with tension and fear, but a quiet, peaceful, fire-tending watch. Imagine a small, human shape, wrapped in furs, sitting quietly by the hearth. The rest of the family is deep in sleep, their breathing a soft, collective sigh that fills the cavern. The watcher's only task is to listen to the fire, to hear the gentle crackle of a log as it burns down, to feel the heat lessen, to see the light fade from a flicker to a deep, pulsing glow, and then to gently, quietly place another piece of dry wood onto the embers. There is a soft sound, the gentle, woody sound of a log being placed. A pause, then a new crackle, a hiss. A small shower of bright sparks dances up into the darkness. A soft, warm, orange flare of light pushes back the shadows, just for a moment. It illuminates the smooth rock of the walls, the sleeping forms under the furs. And then, just as slowly, the light fades again. It settles back into a deep, steady, pulsing glow. This is the rhythm of the deep night. A log is added. The light flares, the light fades, a period of stillness, and then the cycle begins again. This watch would pass from one person to another in a seamless, unspoken flow. When one watcher felt their eyes grow heavy, they would gently touch the shoulder of the next. A quiet murmur, a changing of the guard, done in the softest, slowest way, so as not to disturb the sleepers. This was the first human clock. Not a tool of pressure, but a shared responsibility, a rhythm of community, a simple act of keeping the warmth alive. And what of sleep itself? Without the sharp, definitive signal of sunrise and sunset, human sleep patterns would have likely been very different. Many historians of the pre-industrial world speak of a biphasic sleep pattern. This was not a single, unbroken stretch of 8 hours. Instead, it was a first sleep and a second sleep. The family would settle down as the evening's activities wound down. They would drift into sleep for several hours, perhaps 4 or 5. But then, in the deepest part of the night, what we might call 1 or 2 in the morning, there would be a natural, gentle waking, not a jarring awakening, but a slow, peaceful surfacing. This wakeful period, lasting perhaps 1 or 2 hours, was a strange and quiet time. It was a time of true stillness. The cave would be almost silent, save for the whisper of the embers and the soft breathing of those still in their first sleep. This was a time for quiet reflection, a time to lie in the warm darkness and simply think, to process the day's small events, to dream with open eyes. It was a time for intimacy, for quiet words shared between partners in the heavy, warm dark. Or it was a time to tend the fire. The person awake in this biphasic period might rise, check the embers, add that log, and simply sit for a while, alone with the quiet, warm, glowing heart of the cave. They would feel the profound peace of the deep earth, the safety, the stillness, and then, as naturally as they woke, a gentle wave of sleepiness would return. They would lie back down, pull the heavy furs over them, and sink into a second sleep, which would carry them until the first stirrings of the group's morning. This was a sleep pattern guided entirely by the body's natural preferences, not by an abstract schedule. The children and the elders, too, would have their own rhythms. Their sleep was likely polyphasic, meaning they napped and woke as their bodies needed. A child might stir, be quietly nursed in the darkness, and drift back to sleep. An elder might doze lightly, wake to stretch, and then sink back into rest. There was no pressure. There was only the natural, slow rhythm of life. Of course, the body had other clocks. The biological cue of hunger would create a day, a shared sense of stirring. A collective feeling of emptiness in the stomach would signal a time for the first meal. The preparation of food, the small, communal act of eating, would mark a clear punctuation in the endless flow. And then there was the rhythm of work. The darkness did not mean idleness. It meant a different kind of focus. There needed to be a structure imposed on the formless dark. So, by consensus, there would be a time for tool-making. The sharp, rhythmic, asterisk, click, 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 asterisk, of a flint knapper striking an obsidian core would become its own kind of metronome. A sound of progress, a sound of purpose. There would be a time for scraping and preparing hides, and there would be a time for storytelling, a time when the work was done, and the group gathered close to the fire to listen to the old myths. But how did they know when the asterisk, outside asterisk world, the world of sun and ice, had woken up? They were not completely disconnected. Even in the deepest, most secure chambers, the cave was not a sealed box. Far, far away, down a long passage, was the entrance. And from this entrance, a faint, distant, almost imperceptible cue would arrive. It would not be a beam of light. It would be a subtle, slow shift in the quality of the darkness. The absolute, velvety black of the deepest cave would give way to a distant, faint, milky glow, barely visible. This was the signal. The day in the world above had begun. The storm might be raging, or the sun might be shining on the ice, but the light had returned. This signal might prompt brief excursions, A few individuals, wrapped in their thickest furs, would make the long walk to the cave mouth. They would emerge, squinting, into the biting cold. Their purpose was simple: to check the traps set near the entrance, to gather a basket of clean, fresh snow for melting, or simply to look at the sky, to see the sun or the clouds, to reset their day. Then they would retreat, carrying the cold air on their clothes, back into the deep, stable, unchanging warmth. There is a profound peace to be found in this, the peace of having no abstract clocks, no deadlines, no schedules, just the natural, slow, gentle rhythms of the body, the fire, and the small community. Life was guided by need, by hunger, by sleepiness, by the gentle, steady pulse of living, breathing, and being together in the dark. It was a life where time was not a master to be served, but a river to float upon, a slow, warm, underground river, carrying them safely through the long, deep winter. This rhythm of the fire, this rhythm of the body, served the short term. It created the shape of a day, a cycle of sleep and work and rest. But what about the long term? What about the turning of the seasons? In the depths of the cave, the temperature never changed. The rhythm of the fire was constant. How did they know when the winter was ending? How did they track the passage of months? For this, they needed a different clock, a clock in the sky. The fire gave them a clock for the hours, but for the months, they looked beyond the cave. They looked to the moon, and, in one of the first great flowerings of the human mind, they began to record it. Deep in the hand, warmed by the skin, rests a small, smooth, polished piece of antler or bone. It is an artifact, a tool, but it is something more. It is a calendar, a way to hold time itself in your hand. In the places where these ancient people lived, archaeologists have found these remarkable objects. Perhaps the most famous is the Blanchard plaque, found in the Abri de Blanchard in France. It dates back over 30,000 years. It is a simple thing, at first glance, a piece of bone, but it is covered in a series of intricate, deliberate marks. There are 16 pits and notches, carved with precision, and they are not random. They are arranged in a winding, serpentine shape, like a river meandering across the bone surface. For a long time, we did not know what this meant. Then, in the 1970s, a researcher named Alexander Marshak had an idea. He studied these marks not as art, but as a notational system. He painstakingly compared the sequence of carvings, the different shapes of the pits, the way they were grouped, to the one great, reliable, changing thing in the winter sky, the moon. What he found was extraordinary. The sequence of marks on the Blanchard plaque closely, almost perfectly, matches the phases of the moon. It tracks the moon from a thin crescent to a half moon to a full, bright circle, and then back down again through its waning until it vanishes, only to be reborn as a sliver of light once more. The 16 marks on this single plaque record the slow, silent dance of the moon for over 2¼ lunar months. This is a profound realization. This is not just doodling. This is the birth of abstract thought. It is the birth of science, of astronomy, of record-keeping. This is a human mind reaching out to the cosmos, observing a pattern, and marking it down, preserving it. Why? Why would they do this? Why track the slow, cold, silent moon? Because the moon was the only reliable clock in the long winter darkness. The sun was weak, its arc low and short, but the moon was constant in its change. It was a celestial guide. By tracking the moon, they could track the passage of time. They could predict asterisk. They could know, after 2 or 3 full moons, that the reindeer herds might begin their great migration. They could anticipate when the salmon might run in the rivers. 4 groups living near the coast, the moon's phases were directly tied to the tides, to the best times for harvesting shellfish from the frozen beaches. It may have even been a way to track human fertility cycles, a way of understanding the rhythms of their own bodies by watching the rhythm of the sky. This was not a singular discovery. Other objects tell a similar story. The famous bâton de commandement, a kind of beautifully carved spear thrower from Montgaudier, shows carvings of seals, and alongside them, notations that also appear to mark the phases of the moon. It was a shared, vital piece of knowledge. Imagine the act of creating it. It is itself a rhythm. A person sits by the firelight, the smooth, polished bone warm in their left hand. In their right, they hold a sharp flint burin, a carving tool, its edge honed to a fine point. They look, in their mind's eye, at the moon they saw last night, a perfect, bright half-circle. They find the next spot in the serpentine line, and they press the tool to the bone. There is a soft sound, a scrape, a small white curl of bone dust appears. They make the mark. Scrape, a small, clean notch is left behind. The next night they return. They look at the moon again. It is fuller. They make another mark. Scrape, and the next night, scrape. This act is a meditation. It is a repetitive, rhythmic, calming ritual. Notch after notch after notch. Each mark a day passed. Each mark a connection between the warm, safe, inside world of the cave and the vast, cold, outside world of the sky. This calendar was not a private diary. It was a shared, social object. It was a touchstone of time for the entire group. Someone, perhaps an elder, a shaman, or just a careful observer, would be the keeper of the time. Others would come, in the low firelight, and run a thumb over the surface. They would feel the notches, 1, 2, 3. They would feel the rhythm of the moon, the steady, predictable passage of the days. It was a comfort. It was a promise. It was a way of knowing asterisk, where asterisk they were in the great, dark, frozen winter. It told them that time was not stuck, that the world was still turning, and that, eventually, the spring would come. The bone calendar connected them to the moon, the nearest and most obvious clock in the night sky. But the moon was not alone. From the fire, our gaze traveled to the bone calendar. From the bone calendar, our gaze drifts further, past the moon, deeper into the cosmos. On the clearest, coldest nights, when a member of the group stood at the cave's entrance, checking the traps or gathering snow, they would look up, and they would see a sight we can no longer even imagine. They would see the stars. The sky of the Ice Age was, in many ways, the same sky we see today. The same great constellations wheeled overhead, the great hunter Orion, the familiar shape of the Big Dipper, the W of Cassiopeia, but they were tilted due to the slow 26,000-year wobble of the Earth's axis, known as precession. The stars were in a slightly different alignment. The entire celestial sphere was shifted. This meant that, around 14,000 years ago, the star we know as Polaris, the North Star, was not the pole star at all. It was just another star. The true unmoving pivot point of the heavens. The star around which all others turned was Vega, a bright, blue-white jewel in the constellation Lyra. Imagine that, a different anchor for the entire sky. But the biggest difference was not the position of the stars. It was their asterisk clarity asterisk. In the Ice Age, there was zero light pollution. There were no cities, no electric lights, not even a distant village to cast a glow upon the horizon. The air was cold, crisp, and free of pollutants. The darkness of the night was absolute. And into this perfect, profound blackness, the stars would burst forth with a brilliance that would seem shocking to modern eyes. They would not twinkle, they would shine steady and hard, like diamonds scattered on black velvet, and the Milky Way, our own galaxy, seen edge on. Today, for most of us, it is a faint, milky white smudge, visible only on the clearest, darkest nights. But for them, it would have been a vast, dense, shimmering ribbon of light. It would have been a celestial river, so bright and textured that it looked almost solid, a pathway for the gods, teeming with light and shadow and detail. The sky was not just a ceiling, it was a map, a storybook, and a great, slow-wheeling clock. The predictable, seasonal rising and setting of certain star groups was the ultimate calendar. The rising of the Pleiades, the Seven Sisters, just before the sun, was a key marker for many cultures, a sign that the cold was coming, that it was time to move to the winter camps. The position of Orion in the sky would tell them, with perfect accuracy, what part of the winter they were in. We have wondered if they saw what we see at the famous cave of Lascaux. In what is called the shaft scene, there is a strange and moving painting. It depicts a man, drawn simply, falling backward. Before him is a great, wounded bison, its intestines spilling out. Beside the man is a long stick with a bird on top. For decades, it was seen as a hunting story, perhaps a tragedy. But some researchers have proposed another, more wondrous idea. They looked at the arrangement of the key figures, the eyes of the man, the bison, and the bird, and they realized they form a perfect celestial triangle. They perfectly match the three bright stars of the summer triangle, Vega, Deneb, and Altair, as they would have been positioned in the sky at that time. Perhaps this was not just a story of a hunt. Perhaps it was a map of the stars themselves, painted on the wall of the most sacred, secret part of the cave. And there was another celestial visitor, the aurora borealis, the northern lights. Today, we associate these with the far Arctic. But during the Ice Age, the Earth's magnetic pole was in a different location. This means these silent, shimmering curtains of light, these ethereal, dancing spirits of green and red, would have been visible much further south. They would have been a common, breathtaking sight in the skies over what is now France and Spain. Imagine it, standing at the mouth of the cave, the air so cold it hurts to breathe. You feel the intense, sharp, biting cold on your face as you look up. The silence is vast, deep, and crystal clear. There is no sound but your own breath, and above you, the entire sky is filled with brilliant, unmoving stars, and a silent, shimmering dance of green and red light. This sky was the source of the first great myths, the first great stories. The stars were the only outside connection, a vast and silent companion to the small, warm, inside world of the cave. They were the great, slow, turning wheel of time, a promise that the darkness of winter, however long, was just one part of a much larger, eternal, and predictable cycle. They were the ultimate comfort. And now, we have explored the time, the moon, and the stars. We have looked at the rhythms of the hearth and the rhythms of the cosmos. Now we return. We leave the cold, starry entrance and walk back down the long, sloping passage, away from the sky, away from the outside world. We return, one last time, to the deep, warm, quiet heart of the cave, we return to the great stillness. Here, there are no stars, there is no moon, there is only the quiet. There is only the warmth. There is only the safety. The fire has burned low. It is no longer a bright, flickering flame. It is a bed of deep, glowing embers, a steady, low, red glow. It pulses softly, fading, and then glowing, fading, and then glowing. It is the last gentle light. You are lying down, nestled in the communal sleeping place. You can feel the heavy, warm weight of the furs, the soft hide of a reindeer, the thick wool of a mammoth pelt. They are heavy and so very warm. A gentle, reassuring pressure that settles you deep into the soft bed of dried grasses and moss beneath. You can feel the smooth, solid, ancient stone of the cave wall near your shoulder. It is cool, but not cold. It is solid. It is the deep, unwavering strength of the earth itself, holding you, protecting you. The air is still. There is no draft, no wind, just the still, warm air, carrying the faint, earthy smell of the cave, the scent of wood smoke, of dried herbs, of sleeping humanity. It is the smell of home, the smell of safety. The darkness is absolute. It is a deep, velvety, soft darkness. It is not an empty, cold black. It is a warm, full, enveloping darkness. A darkness that holds you like a blanket. And the silence, it is profound. It is deep. It is unbroken. The only sound is the rhythmic, slow breathing of the sleepers around you. A soft inhale, a long, slow exhale. The gentle, shared sound of a family at rest. It is the sound of peace. You can feel yourself sinking heavy and relaxed into the warmth, sinking into the quiet. The feeling of total safety. The world outside is gone. The ice, the wind, the vast cold stars. They are a distant memory. Here, there is only the glowing red ember, fading, fading, Here, there is only the heavy, warm fur, so heavy, so warm, Here, there is only the still, warm air. No movement, just still. Here, there is only the deep, deep quiet. So peaceful, so quiet. Here, there is only the feeling of safety, warm, and safe, sinking, sinking down. And now, there is only the quiet, the deep, ancient quiet of the cave, the stillness of the earth, and the warmth of the sleeping hearth. The story is over. The world outside is far away, and all that is left is this safe, peaceful place. Thank you for joining us on this journey here at Sleeping Scribe. It is a true privilege to share these stories with you. If our journey tonight has helped you find a little peace, we would be so grateful if you would like or subscribe, as it helps our small community grow. But for now, all that matters is your rest. May your own sanctuary, wherever you are, be as peaceful as this ancient cave. May your sleep be deep and your dreams be pleasant.